And I think this conversation is not actually about an absolute number, it's about a percentage.
Right.
I think one of the things that we've learned along the way is that what people pay us is whatever their, whatever their rate of return may be, whatever other solutions we're able to deliver to them, etc., minus 1% per annum, whatever it might be.
Hello, friends. Hello, and welcome to Network FP Success Talks, where you meet, gain insights, and get inspired from the leaders of personal finance profession. With us, we have a lovely couple and the co-founders of PlanAhead Wealth Advisors, Shalini Dhawan and Vishal Dhawan. Welcome to the show, Shalini and Vishal.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Sadik, for having us.
Lovely. Friends, PlanAhead is a SEBI-registered investment advisor, manages over 1,200 crores of assets for 325 families, and recently completed 20 years of journey. Congratulations, Vishal and Shalini, for this amazing success and growth which you have had over the last 20 years.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadik. You've been an important part of this growth journey as well.
Yes, Network FP has been there for a long while, so that's also a great thing.
And it's nice to know you both right from the beginning. Even before I started Network FP, Vishal and Shalini, we have interacted, and it's great to see, you have become, your firm, and you have become one of the, people whom the industry and the rest of the fraternity looks up to. Great to have you. And I was telling to my, Gaurav today morning that I have met Vishal and Shalini both numerous times individually, but it's the first time that I'm meeting them and interacting with them together. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Looking forward to it.
So Shalini, let's get started. What's been the most difficult part of this journey over the last 20 years, whether it's managing clients, managing team, or managing family sometimes, or, let's put it this way, managing each other, whatever it is, or anything else?
So I think first of all, I would call this journey, a pleasure. I wouldn't call it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
If we would say that what would have been, the challenge part in this journey, it would be really, at least for me, managing self, I think. In the start, when, any entrepreneur starts off his or her journey, there is a lot of things on their mind. There are so many priorities. Managing clients, like you said, in the start, one doesn't have a team. So, team comes later, managing team, many of those things. But over the years, one realizes that managing self, keeping yourself, calm, balanced, when, there is always work priorities, family priorities, team priorities, client priorities, always trying to be your best version or trying to work towards that for clients as an advisor, making sure that, you're bringing the best to the client. I think that's been, the challenge which I continue to, put to myself, I think. So that's been, but the journey's been fun.
Completely understand you, Shalini. Help us understand, what were you both doing before you started PlanAhead? And you both started it together, or it was you both came in at different times in this timeline?
So actually, I think we have a very high risk tolerance. So both of us quit our corporate careers together to set it up.
Okay.
And we were also expecting our first child at that point. So, so it's fairly interesting that when we reflect back, we had two kids simultaneously. Obviously, both of them have now become out of their teen years, let's say. I wouldn't say adults yet.
He means to say PlanAhead and our son, both are 20 now.
So I think it was, fairly clear as we sort of went through our journeys in our corporate careers, and we both had about 6-7 years each in the corporate world after our, business school sort of studies where we met. It seemed reasonably clear that two things were needed quite significantly. One is some trusted person for families. where they could go to and pour out their hearts and all their money woes that exist. And of course, all the questions that come with them. And we sort of went through that journey ourselves, as we thought about becoming entrepreneurs. But we really couldn't find anyone who we could ask these questions. So, we'd ask someone a question like, where should I be investing? And their answer would be, ELSS. And I'm like, seriously, I mean, like, that's not the answer that I want. So we discovered that, that was a huge challenge. So for Shalini, she was her last job was EY. And of course, she was with Kodak before that. And I was in my last job with ABN AMRO Bank and spent a few years before that with ICICI Bank. Interestingly, none of us ever talked to clients directly. So I think for a lot of people who sort of believe that, we came with clients to our business, that's not the truth. We started off with just knowing no one.
Get that. And it's always difficult to leave a hefty paying job. I'm sure both of you are well paid working with MNCs. So great. Shalini, let's come to the present now. If you can help us visualize your team structure, office, and how many people are there, and what is it that what work have you given to Vishal and what you have kept for yourself?
So I think today PlanAhead team, amazing team, is around 25, 26 of us. About half of our clients are managed by the team directly now. So that's, an excellent thing because managing clients, as you would know, as all of us who are on this podcast would know, that that is where, you need the most energy coming in. Out of the balance 50, I think almost 75% of that is handled by Vishal, and I handled about 25%. So, that's essentially the client facing role that I do have. Besides that, of course, I do wear a few more hats. Sometimes it's quite one of more challenges in the self-challenge is to, manage my HR responsibilities, my compliance responsibilities, and also some bit of marketing and IT back office as well. So I do handle a few more hats in that sense. And different priorities at different times. So broadly, that's how the things that I handle. And Vishal broadly handles 75% of the balance, 50 clients. He, of course, he is the public face of PlanAhead. So that's one, task that we have given him conveniently. So he is the public face. He actually represents PlanAhead at all public fora. And also, of course, handles a lot of other planning, manager, and research-related responsibilities.
Sure. Great. Vishal, now let's come to you are one of the pioneers and also the leaders, I would say, in the fee only and fee based financial advisory model in India. And if you can help us, and since the time we started together, this has been always a debate whether fees, commission, and it will continue. That is what I feel for the rest of our remaining lives at least. But let's come to why you took up this model vis-a-vis other model, and what is your current fee structure, and how is it going for you around the fee model here in India for you?
So I think it's a eternal debate. So I wouldn't disagree with that at all. But I think it's interesting to think through, why we made certain choices. And I think a part of an entrepreneurial journey is actually about saying yes to some things and saying no to many things. Right. And clearly, one of the decisions we made at some point was to say no to commissions and yes to fees. So let's try to go back a little bit in time. I think it's important to go back to the first phase of 20 years. I'd say this is the pre-2013 world, so really 2003 to 2013. Two big things were very, very evident. One was asset allocation did not matter till 2008. In fact, when we started off for the first 5 years, when we used to do financial planning, asset allocation, etc., we used to look rather foolish because we actually held back investor returns very meaningfully. And it wasn't something that clients really enjoyed, that they have an advisor who is successfully reducing their rate of return. And at that point, we sort of felt that the market was too early for fees. So by the time we got to having the confidence of charging fees, it was 2007. So it's now been 15 years since we started charging fee out to clients. We were a little hesitant at the start. Luckily, the regulator came in 2009. First, the global financial crisis happened. Suddenly, asset allocation became a big deal. Risk management became an important piece, etc. Right. And then in 2009, entry loads on mutual funds went away. And for all of us who now, crib that there's too much change happening, I remember that it was about 33 days before entry load abolishment took place. So literally, you had to rethink your business model in 30 days. So I remember a conversation at that particular point. We were a small team, and we sort of had two choices. One is to just absorb all of it. And the second is to, go out and tell investors that this is how we used to get compensated. This is now how we want to get compensated. We don't want to make more money because this has happened, but we want to make the same amount of money as what we were making earlier because our services are the same.
Fair.
We spent zero time on cribbing about it. Because one of the things that we had learned pretty early on is it's like marriage, right? You can crib about a marriage, you can crib about a lot of things, but it doesn't really help. You got to move on. So with the entry load abolition, within about a month after it went off, we had reached out to all our clients, and interestingly, only about 5% of our clients at that time said that they weren't willing to compensate us for it. And we were like, okay, but we don't have any other way to do it, so we let them go. The next big transition obviously happened in 2013 when the IA regulations came in.
Correct.
But at that point, there was no restriction in terms of how fee could be charged or not charged. There was only a definition of reasonable fee.
Correct.
And it coincided with the introduction of direct plans, which, frankly, was of no value because there was no data sharing allowed with advisors of the direct plan. So I think for the first 3-4 years, we actually spent time with the industry, working very closely with them. I spent, I think, 2 years in AMC offices, trying to convince them why data needs to get shared with an advisor if he has to give good advice. And therefore, by 2016-17, this got streamlined. We obviously, all this while were a hybrid model where we were fee-based and we had commissions. What happened is the moment direct plans became available with data, all new clients that we started to sign on only with direct plans. And then in 2020, when the last regulation came in, we went out and moved completely to fee only.
Okay.
At every stage that we did these transitions, we lost about 5 to 10% of our clients.
Oh.
And it never feels good to lose a client. But I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes you sort of do things where you get your hands a little dirty. And this is a classic case where I think the 90% or 95% who stayed behind have actually gained from the process. 5 to 10% may have also gained if they had stayed on, but those were choices that they made as well.
True.
I think the way that we look at it is the biggest advantage of an entrepreneur charging fees, whether he's a financial advisor or anyone else, is his or her control over his income.
Revenue model.
And I think it's a phenomenal advantage. I can just say that, I'd be struggling today if I was told that, expense ratio has got cut somewhere and therefore, your revenue will automatically get impacted. And I still believe that, entrepreneurs, one of the big things that happens with entrepreneurs is their ability to influence pricing through the kind of service that they offer. And if you give away that power, I think you give away something which is very, very important.
Okay, got it. And what is the current fee model that you are following, and how comfortable are clients with that model? And I'm sure clients are comfortable. Let's talk about the range and quantum of fees which you are charging?
Yeah, so, first of all, we are fee only. So therefore, the only income that we today get from distribution would be coming from some small portion of our assets that are lying from a pre-existing period. We have 0 clients who are on distribution. Our fees are in the range of about 1%. They sort of tend to vary depending on what's the services that a client uses, and also what's the kind of assets under advice. So it could go up to 1.2%, 1.3% as well, and it could sort of drop to 0.5% in certain cases. But really, on an average, our belief is about 1%.
Around 1%. I'm just doing some quick maths right here. You manage around 1,200 crores for around 300 clients. So roughly the average ticket size is around 4 to 5 crores or something like that, right? I'm just making a rough average. So you must be earning around 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs. I'm just wondering, and I'm sure many others are wondering, and that's why I'm asking the question, Vishal. How comfortable are clients actually giving that kind of an amount of 4 lakhs, 5 lakh rupees for an advice? And I'm sure you are able to deliver value. We just want to know how you are able to justify and deliver that kind of value.
So I think I'll make the problem a little more complex than you have. For a lot of our clients, we are the second largest expense in their P&L. Because if, let's say, you end up paying that kind of fee, you don't spend so much money on a lot of things every month. We charge clients on a monthly basis. So we sort of inflict that pain upon them much more than a lot of other people do, right? But I think it's interesting to sort of look at the other side of it, right? And I think this conversation is not actually about an absolute number; it's about a percentage.
Right.
I think one of the things that we've learned along the way is that what people pay us is whatever their whatever their rate of return may be, whatever other solutions we're able to deliver to them, etc., minus 1% per annum, whatever it might be. I think if you convert it to absolute numbers, you always start to worry about it. But I think we keep going back to them and telling them that it is 1% per annum. Of course, some people continue to be uncomfortable. India has a unique challenge that you have to collect fees from the investor's bank account. You cannot collect it from the portfolio. This is something which is harder in India as compared to many other countries where you can recover fee from a portfolio. But I think what we realize is that the level of trust that it enables for investors is incredible. And it allows you to call a spade very easily, which sometimes is very uncomfortable. But, a lot of our clients are used to having yes people around them. We are one of the few people who are like constantly telling them no, 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 no. So
I'm asking tough questions. मतलब पैसा भी देना है और विशाल का सुनना भी है.
True.
Sure. Shalini, let's come to you. You have been an advocate and a practitioner of life planning, and I see that certificate right in the background with Network FP. That's, I believe, the life planning 7 stages of Kinder Institute.
Correct.
Like,
yeah. Yes.
So what is this life planning? Because Vishal has spoken so much about the fees, and obviously you are adding a lot of value beyond just financial planning. And I know that both of you are life planning practitioners. So what is it, and how has that actually impacted both your clients and your practice?
I think the impact has been huge in terms of the kind of deep relationship that we have been able to nurture with clients. I think probably partly thanks to Network FP, we also got introduced to the Kinder life planning, and of course later money quotient. What this certificate or training has allowed us to do is to build a whole new perspective in terms of financial planning or investment advisory is not just about the numbers. So, there is a client, there is a family, there are emotions, there are, some kind of mental mind maps that we have in our minds as regards money. There are some scripts going on in our mind, which we only realize when we kind of slow down, sit down with a client family. There's so much that we can know if we are spending time in a, and in a more meaningful manner. Allowing us to kind of get a little bit under the skin of the client, if you would say so, and allowing us to understand, our thoughts on, what's like money actually going to do for this client, and how can we improve the satisfaction levels around money? How can we improve the overall wellness in terms of what we can do for the client? So I think it's very impactful.
So how do you define it as, differentiate that from, we all understand financial planning as such, achieving goals. That's financial planning, right? Managing money to achieve goals. But how do you define a life planning as a concept which is different from this?
I think adding more meaning to your money. I think that's what a financial life planner can do. Adding more context, adding more perspective. I think that's what a life planner can get in a client relationship. I think that would be that one big difference. Of course, there are a lot of definitions, including life planning is financial planning well done, and so on. So, every person who is kind of on this path of financial life planning, like Vishal and me, and there are a few others now, are deeply rooted in the fact that there is a connect that we want to create with the client. Investment advisory or generally personal finance, I think, in India is more transactional, taking it to a whole different relationship, and also taking it intergenerational, if you want to really look at it that way. I think that's where some of the cementing of the relationships can happen with financial life planning.
True. So it's going beyond numbers, getting into life, getting into their emotions, and
So so it just reminds me of this example of a doctor client that we had, and there was at one point in time much earlier in his life and in his practice, where he had this opportunity to get into like a nursing home kind of situation, and he connected with us. I do remember Vishal was the lead advisor. There was a lot of Excel and number crunching and financial planning and those things done because we had to sit it make it sit parallel to his personal plan. And then there was some conversations that came up saying that what would this trade-off of the nursing home mean for him? It did mean like a lot of trade-off between say his pursuing some of his passions and hobbies that he had. He is an amazing person. He plans out his travel like 6 months out. He's an amazing photographer. Besides being a doctor, leading the cardiologist. And that's when he realized that this trade-off is not what I want to do. And I think some of those conversations which we did with them allowed him to kind of take that decision. So it was not purely a money decision. Of course, the financials and all were there. They were chalked out. We had a break-even plan for him as well, which was parallel to his personal plan. But the conversations allowed him more than us, because I mean, as an advisor, you can say something, or as a personal finance person, you can say things. But, a lot of people would say that you're, looking at this from the outside. What do you know? How do you relate to it? So I think when we had those conversations with him, we were able to get to him this point that this trade-off is there. Do you want to make it? And he chose not to. So that, and of course, he's fairly successful now, touch wood. So it's not that, the opportunity was lost and he took it up a little later and so on. But at that point, that those conversations really helped, I think.
Beautiful. And there are so many things that Excel really do not speak up, which you discover, right? And this reminds me of your tagline, Shalini and Vishal. And I really am a fan of this tagline, which is adding meaning to your finances and adding time to your life. This really sums up the real ultimate role of a financial advisor. So congratulations for designing that tagline, and I must congratulate and appreciate what how you have beautifully built it and really practicing it for your clients. So great. Vishal, coming to you, you both are as a firm, and both of you are doing a lot of things which are not the obvious norm in the industry. And I have personally seen you as a contrarian. And I must tell my audience that Vishal has been part of our advisory board, and now part of Network FP board, proper board. And during one of the board meetings, we were discussing what should be the name of our certification. And a lot of certification names are starting with C, certified, chartered, and all this. And only one of them was Q, which was qualified. And all of us were talking about starting with C, and Vishal said, no, we should go for the name Qualified Personal Finance Professional. So in the first place, Vishal, and we are loving it now. And everybody is loving it, the name Qualified Personal Finance Professional. So he has been a contrarian. That's why I wanted to mention, and thanks, Vishal, for that. So what are some of the things, Vishal, which you and your team are doing with your clients, which are really not the norm in the industry, and which you think, ठीक है, दुनिया करे तो नहीं करे, लेकिन हम तो ऐसे ही करेंगे, and it's like working for you, obviously.
So I think a few things. Clearly, I think life planning is a very powerful differentiator. I don't think a lot of people are doing it, and I think the biggest power of life planning, besides helping to cement relationships, etc., comes from setting correct goals. I think what happens is too many people in our life, and the people that we meet, set goals that are actually someone else's goals. So, my neighbor is sending his child to study overseas, so that becomes my financial goal. I think that's terrible, because you can't lead someone else's life, because what gives you satisfaction could be something completely different. And what a good life planning process and good structure can do is actually bring those goals out. Very often these goals are different for husbands and wives. And doing a life plan with a couple is such an incredible experience, because if the couple are sitting next to each other, they're like trying to peek into each other's sheets to figure out. And I think it's very rare that people go out of that meeting ever saying that they don't know something new about their spouse, which they didn't know before it, right? So I think that's very powerful. We know a lot of people come back and tell us, oh, bahut time leta hai. Who has time? Anyway, we are short of time, etc. My single piece of advice on this is that this time spent at the beginning is so valuable that it saves you many hours of time later on. Because what you can do very simply is go out and connect every decision that happens in their life with what is important to them. And I think you just have to keep reminding them, because unfortunately people forget what's important to them themselves. And so that I think is very, very useful. It's very differentiated. It's very powerful. That's number one. Number two is that, there is a sort of, I think this big fear of losing clients, which exists across the industry. And I think we've also been through that at certain points, where we used to be fearful that we might lose a client because of something that we did or we did not do. I think over a period of time, you sort of figure that, as long as you have done the thinking right, when a client decides to leave you, it's probably as big a loss for him or her as it is for you as a practice, or maybe sometimes even a bigger loss for the client. And therefore, this is a mental game. I think, as an advisor, we've learned that if you don't worry too much about it, it doesn't mean that you don't have to give your best. It doesn't mean that you compromise on anything. You don't have to do any of that. But I think there is only so much that you can do. And the rest of it, is sometimes uncontrollable. So I think that's the second thing that we found, which is very useful and different. The third thing is, today being a fee only practice,
Hmm.
I think itself is dramatically different.
Hmm.
Because what happens is when we meet investors, they've met so many other people who are doing other things with money. And they keep asking us, saying that, so you don't earn anything else? So is this the only thing that you earn from? So there's disbelief in them as well. And we think it's so powerful in terms of building trust and so differentiated even today. I mean, at the end of the day, you have such few people doing fee only advisory that it itself becomes a differentiator. And we are starting to see that process change, where there are clients who come to us and ask us the first question today, which is, do you do fee only advice or do you earn any commission? And I'm pretty sure that if we answered we earn some commission, that call would end in like 30 seconds. So I think also seeing customer demand change in the marketplace for this kind of a requirement.
Got it. So life planning, fee only, and not so much fear of losing clients. So good. Now that you are mentioning about financial planning, life planning, there's so much of work which you're doing for your clients, charging so much of fees, and obviously you are spending a lot of time, not just your team, not just client facing, but also coming back to your desk. So Vishal, if you can help us visualize your planning process. We all understand the process, analyze and recommend and all those things. But if you can help us understand the process with timelines, कि कितना time जाता है ये एक step, हर एक step में, so that we know what's the kind of work that happens actually with each client.
Got it. Yeah, so I think there are two things that are important. One is that we don't take on one-time engagements because I think the amount of effort that clients put in terms of sharing with us information which is very personal, and the amount of time that we give to the process is such that it's just not worth doing it as a one-time engagement. So very clearly at the start itself, we tell all our clients that if you're coming here to taste us or test us, then we are probably not the right guys. It's not anything to do with anything else, but just simply because we think that clients will not be so emotionally invested if they're here for a short-term engagement, and we also fear that we may not end up being as engaged in the process. So very clearly, all our engagements are long-term. In fact, our agreements with clients are perpetual agreements until the client chooses to close it with a 30-day notice or vice versa. Because we don't want to spend time after you're in a relationship to get agreements going and stuff like that. So typically what happens is our initial planning process is a 2-month process. It involves 3 meetings. These meetings happen at a frequency of roughly about every 2 weeks.
Okay.
The amount of time that it takes from the client perspective is between 6 to 10 hours of time.
All the 3 meetings.
Yes, across the 3 meetings, 6 to 10 hours. And the amount of time that between us and the team we put in, it's roughly between 35 and 40 hours.
Initial phase itself, 35 to 40 hours.
That's right. So it is a very deep engagement, and that's why we don't like to do these one-off engagements. And it is fairly comprehensive. Life planning itself can take time, and sometimes you have to sort of stop at a particular place because it gets rather emotional. So I think there's a sort of important thing that we have to learn how to get the maximum value of those 35-40 hours that our team puts in. Beyond that initial 35-40 hours of engagement, which is the planning process, we do a yearly review of the plan, and we do a plan which is and we do plans which are sort of updated on life-changing events. So let's say if someone loses a job, we definitely suggest that we got to do it right away, even if you just did your plan 3 months ago. So that's obviously on one side. The other is, as far as reviewing progress is concerned, both on the plan, on the portfolio, on many other aspects, we meet clients every quarter. So therefore, and those meetings typically are 1 to 2 hour meetings that happen every quarter. So it is reasonably intensive in terms of the engagement that happens. And obviously there comes a point in time which actually scares us, is that clients are like, if you're saying it, we're just doing it. And we're like, no, you got to stop, you got to listen, you got to know why, you got to say, you got to understand why, you got to, make those choices. But that's sort of how the journey is.
Lovely. So I'm just asking, if you want to say no to this answer, you can say no, but just this 40 hours, 35 to 40 hours, if you have to put a price, you have your, let's say you have a notional hourly rate, right, of Vishal, Dhawan and your team and Shalini. If you have to just put a price tag to this 40 hours of work for your client, what would that price tag be like?
So I think it's priceless, right? Because what happens is no one talks to their clients for 35, 40 hours at all. Or even for 6 to 10 hours, right? And then sort of does 35, 40 hours of work behind it. I think what we find is that, we'd love if we could actually have a separate price for it, but we're actually happy that the regulations don't allow it. Because what it would have done is, it would have tried to do exactly the math that you're trying to do right now. And it would have had I suspect, outcome which would have been worse rather than better. What happens today is it prevents us from taking one-time engagements at all. It essentially means that investors are going to be sort of committed through the journey. And it's incredible that, one might have thought that investors will take advantage of this and just, do a plan and then, terminate an agreement. But we've never seen that happen. So it's incredible that, even clients understand that this is, they don't want to enter into one-time engagement. So we are wives, nice and proper, not girlfriends.
Good. So, Shalini, any comment on the recent comment of Vishal?
No, I think.
No, not on a serious note.
No comments.
All right. So, Shalini, I recently read your note on the 20 things, 20 learnings you had from the last 20 years. And it was a beautiful note, very well written, very thoughtfully written. I loved reading each of those learnings. Shalini, what are your top, 2 or 3 learnings from it with examples? Ki bhai, 20 is like too much to cover in this. I would have loved to cover them. But those 2 or 3 learnings with some examples around those learnings, if you can share.
Yeah, so I think learning number 1 would be similar what a lot of today's audience would already know of, is what is stated as number 1. In like, we have to first figure what money can solve for the client or the investor. We obsess a lot about the rate of return and so on and so forth. And we spend a lot of time about where to invest, what kind of returns will it give. And this is actually something that I do bring up in my client conversations also. Like Vishal said, we have to remind ourselves as well as our clients in terms of what's important. So we do bring up, those items as well. That, let's say if you had, a piece of investment which was locked up, okay, and giving a fantabulous rate like some 15, 20, 25%, whatever, like those kind of supernormal rates. But it's locked and it's not going to be accessible to you, say, next year when you need it. Now, here's like a classical mismatch of there is money, but it can't do anything for you in that sense, right? So what is this big deal about the X percentage that it's going to give to you maybe 5 years down the line? Let's say even if it is guaranteed. So here's where some of the perspective needs to come in, saying that there is a certain meaning. You worked so many years, you've done so much for your family, you've put in all the hard work, the sweat and toil. And here's a client who now suddenly feels that, oh, but this money is not making meaning. It's somewhat like when Vishal and me started off, between the 2 of us, we had about, say, 6-7 years, it's about 12 or 13 years of corporate careers between the two of us, right? And when we started off, we again had, monies put in different places, like, an LIC or a ELSS or stuff like that. But when we said, okay, entrepreneurship and capital, it was strewn in all so many places that it didn't make meaning. It didn't make meaning. It was there. It was obviously at certain rates of return. It didn't make meaning. So that was, that's something that's a learning I think I carry through. I think we carry through in our practice also. We do bring it up in conversations because that's a perspective that I think clients need to have very, very clearly. Another learning, is something that actually I've learned over the years from Vishal, I would say, is how to be that no person and, stand your, keep to your stand. Sometimes it's very tempting, you are an advisor hired by the client and the client has his or her view, but I think you have to remember that you are that person who's supposed to get in that third party rational perspective. And if there is a no to be said, as an advisor, as a personal finance person, I think you should have the courage to say no. So I think these would be possibly, those one or two things. Even today, I think sometimes, clients come to us saying, oh, I want to change this goal. And I think I want to go in for an upgrade of a car, or I want to do this and all. So I think we are able to give that perspective that, yeah, okay, if you do this, this is what will happen and this trade-off will happen. So we are able to be that a little bit of courageous person who says that, this is not as hunky-dory as you think it is, or it is hunky-dory both ways. So, sometimes people are holding back from spending because they are a bit concerned. So even that time we can say that, no, don't be so concerned, you don't need to be. So both ways.
Right. I mean, just being the most honest person in the room, whatever the client may think, doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
So, Vishal, now coming to you, your learnings, we have gone for a lot of FPA conferences to US together. At least I think 4 or 5 years we went in a row, right? And I must tell my audience that, Vishal was always adjusted as the student of the year. For me, being the most studious and studious person for making the most of the learnings from the conferences, attending all the sessions, making notes, and giving us a lot of learnings and debriefing at the end of the day, in the night. Vishal, you remember meeting just after our dinners and before sleep for what we learned and what we are going to implement back in India. These are amazing days. I loved those days, by the way. Okay, you, Vishal, you, Lawai, me, Suresh, and so many of us, Bhuna, and all of us. So what are some of those learning? I want to see, last 12 years now, I think, 10 odd years, 10, 12 years, what have those learnings actually done to your practice? How it has changed your practice, or what is it that you have really implemented and that has led to the growth or success of your practice? Specific example, if you can give.
Yeah, so a few things very clearly. I think, I also wonder why you stopped that. I'm very keen to go for more of those conferences. So someday when you started off, I think,
yeah,
you know who's there on that list.
We'll be the first to sign on, I think.
So I think a few things very, very clearly. I think, one of the myths that existed in my mind for sure was that ये सब जो fee है ना, ये सब जो लाइफ प्लानिंग है ना, ये सब जिंग जैंग जो बहुत सब लोग बोलते हैं, वो सब अमेरिका में चलेगा, इंडिया में नहीं चलता, and it's not going to work here. So this is the belief that I had. And then obviously, in addition to the conference, there were these planner office visits that used to be done. Those were remarkable because what they did is they suddenly brought the most successful financial advisors in the US in front of you. And they said all the same things that your clients tell you. And they had the same fears, the same emotions, the same everything in there. And, these clients were paying fees.
Yeah.
And they had the option to go to someone else who earned on a commission as well. And therefore, suddenly you realized that the ecosystem is the same. It's not a different ecosystem. And therefore, if you can have a successful practice in that geography, with the same kind of investors. So why can't you have the same successful practice in India with India's investors? And I think that was a revelation of a different kind, because it took away any mind block that we may have had, that the Indian investor is different. The Indian investor does not pay. The Indian investor does not do this. The Indian investor is emotional. The Indian investor wants returns. The Indian investor wants value for money. All of that, all those myths got broken. And the moment that myth got broken, today that doesn't even come across our mind. We never think saying that, India mein aisa nahi hota hai. Where like everything happens in India as it happens in the rest of the world.
Correct.
That's number one. Number two is, the belief that clients are willing to come to your office rather than you having to go to their location, right? For everyone who's in this business, we know that, we have only two things that we can take advantage of. One is operating leverage of teams. And the second is how we manage our time. And in the cities that we live in, wherever we are, the one common problem is travel and time taken in that and the energy that goes with that. I think till we went to the US, we thought that this can't happen. And this is all, remember, pre-COVID and all of that, right? A lot has changed after COVID. People are more comfortable doing online and stuff like that. But in a pre-COVID world as well, we realized that as a professional, people are willing to come to your offices. In fact, by coming to the office, it actually becomes a far better place because the kind of conversations are very professional. They get a chance to meet your team. They get a chance to see your infrastructure. They get a chance to, sort of say things which they can't necessarily say at home because, being emotional at home and suddenly someone passes by in the room, it's very tough. Or imagine doing this in an office environment of the client's office. It's very hard to do. So I think the second thing that we learned from a lot of this is that it's perfectly okay to run a model where you have clients come into your office and it's invaluable for you. Last but not the least was the fact that it's very interesting that, when we first started going to the US, financial advisors went through 10 years of US markets not having given any returns at all. And it was incredible that, most of the clients were still with them. And I was like, seriously, I mean, like, how do you get people to pay for advice continuously?
Without giving returns.
Without giving returns, right? I mean, we can't imagine it, right? And that's when you sort of got into it and you realize that actually our value was not about the returns at all. Anyway, returns is an uncontrollable event. I mean, if oil goes to $300, we can give the reason why we didn't have returns, but we can't control the outcome. And therefore, what it made us do is look at our practice very differently. It started to allow us to adapt to getting passives into portfolios very quickly. You sort of do things that are uncontrollable. And therefore, you try to say that things which are uncontrollable, I will talk about, but I will not over-focus on that. Let me focus on the controllables. And that differentiation. And, one of the best things that happened, I'm sure even you appreciated, Sadek, is, the fact that we got exposed to people like Carl Richards, we got exposed to people like Dina Katz, etc. And I think the clarity and the vision and the way that they explained how all of this was just made it so connected in our minds that we could actually, come back and say it's just incredible. And I still say that, I wish I was 25 years old today. Not because, I would have more hair, but just because I think the opportunity in front of us is so large that I feel bad that I'm, going to be 50 soon. And I might have only 20, 30 years to take advantage of this opportunity.
Sure. Beautiful, and great. I just got a little nostalgic about our US visits. I went into a flashback mode, all our meetings, planner visits, the one-on-ones, almost, we had a small group discussion with Michael Kitzes, Dina Katz, Carl Richards we met. I mean, amazing times those were, Vishal. And we must revisit how we can make it happen again. So thanks for bringing these things up. So now, are you both up for a quick rapid fire round, which is going to be fun and a little personal?
So,
It depends on the hamper.
coffee with Sadiq hamper.
So let's start. Okay, I've seen both of you being like really very cool and very calm, composed. मतलब ऐसे लगता है the perfect gentleman and the perfect lady are sitting next to each other, you know. But still, I must, being husband and wife, I'm sure there are some, somebody's voice goes up sometimes and those things happen. I want to know who is louder at home and who is louder at office, or who kind of overpowers each other at office and home.
I'm louder at home and at office.
Okay. Vishal, I agree. Okay. So,
I'm not saying anything, because if I say something, you don't know what will be the implication of that. So I'm being quiet. The office one, I can still try to venture, but home, I don't want to go there.
Sure. What is it that, Shalini, you teach at QPFP Children's Education and Planning? What is it that you both are really proud about of having taught your children about money?
I would say, I don't know if it's yet inculcated, but some sense of gratitude and some sense of abundance, both.
Gratitude and abundance. Vishal, anything which you want to add here?
So I think there is this value system that what I think you get should be got in the right manner. And I think it's very important, because it's not actually about money. It's actually about everything in your life. So let's say, when you're growing up, I think there is other types of temptation, right? I mean, you want to ace an exam, you have the option to sort of be smart about it in some way. And I think some of those shortcuts really pay back terribly in life. And I think a lot of money lessons, come from some of these choices that you end up making. So I think one of the things that we are at this point at least very proud about our kids is that they will put their head down and work really hard. And I know, this is a very controversial topic at this point in time, 70 hours a week and all of that. But I just think that, it's incredible how the number of hours you work is directly proportional to the success that you have in every part of your life.
Very nicely put. What is the best and most proudest client transformation which you have delivered? And you can both go differently or together, whichever way. Shalini, you can go first. The most memorable and proud client transformation which you think you have delivered to the many of your clients.
So maybe I'll go first.
Yeah,
so let me tell you about a client of ours who who was in his 50s and retired, and he sort of became wealthy in the latter part of that journey because of the ESOPs that he had at a bank, and very frugal lifestyle. That's the way that he was born, etc., etc. And truly lived up to being very modest all the time. During one of the conversations that we were having, interestingly a life planning type of conversation, he mentioned that I wish I could buy a Mercedes, right? And we're like, oh, sure, I think you can buy one. So he's like, no, there's no way I can buy a Mercedes. So I told him, okay, so if you do the numbers, will you buy it? So he said, nahi, kuch nahi hota, but let's not do that. So anyway, I went into the numbers, okay, irrespective of the fact that he told me nahi. And interestingly, when we did the numbers, we were like, aaram se Mercedes le sakta hai, matlab no problem at all. So we presented the numbers to him. So he came back and he did like all kinds of things. What if I fall sick? What if this happens to my wife? This will happen. What if my kids need this, that? We said, let's build everything in. आपको जो भी बताना है, बोल दो, हम लोग अभी कर देंगे. Still, you can afford the Mercedes. So interestingly, he now has his third Merc.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, of course, not 3 at a time. We haven't got there, but that's how you can transform things, because it's not just about controlling spending or doing those things, but it's also something that we mentioned in our note, that we can allow clients to spend without guilt. I think the problem is that there is too much of spending which happens with guilt. It's just like, you eat mithai and you feel guilty about it. What's the point in eating mithai if you're going to feel guilty about it? You might as well eat it or don't eat it. No point in eating mithai with guilt.
True. Lovely. So 3 marks, one by one. Shalini, now coming to you. And for this, Vishal, I want you to take an oath that you will not talk about it after this meeting with Shalini, okay? So let's, and Shalini, you can talk your heart out. What is it that you really love about Vishal and at work? We will not talk about home, but at work, what is 1 or 2 things that you really love about Vishal? And what is it that you really don't like about Vishal at work? You can go with either.
Very easy, because I tell him, I think about this every day. I love his sincerity. And recently I love his patience. I don't know how he can, manage to do that. And of course, the other thing which I think he is an improvement item, which I tell him, is that strategy is good, but pay attention to operations. So that's also something that I keep telling him. So these are the things.
Okay, so she has been very diplomatic, Vishal. She didn't talk directly. So you were saved. You want to go, or it's fine? We'll go to the next question.
Yeah, that's all. I mean,
no. So am I allowed to also talk about what I like and what I don't like?
Okay. Shalini, you take a oath that you'll not talk about this after this meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the ability to balance out the ideal versus the practical, I think that's a big strength, because what happens is sometimes as entrepreneurs we can be very ideal, and someone needs to bring you down to earth. She does that very successfully. This is praise, by the way, right? Not.
Yeah, I'm taking it as praise. So.
I think where she could do a little better is. Sometimes just say that it's okay to fail. And I think, often we hold back from doing certain things because of the scare of failure. And I think what happens is that, you've already called me contrarian, right? So I don't have this big fear of failing. I think for people who don't know this, a lot of people probably don't. When I went for my first job interview with a bank, I was told that, you will not get called in an interview itself. So what I did was I wrote my CV in poetry.
Oh.
So I got called just because those people said that we want to meet this guy who
in
poetry. So that's how I got my first job. So I think it's okay to fail. I think, we don't know what will succeed and what will fail anyway.
All right. One last question, and I'm sure you have done it, and I want you to see if you're comfortable doing it in front of the world, and feel free to say no, and we'll close the call if you're not comfortable. But this is the first question of Kinder's 3 questions. I'll not ask the second and third question, but the first question, which is, if you had all the money in this world, you don't have to worry about, and and you are in the best of the health and everything is great. Jitna chahiye utna paisa hai. What is it that you would really do, in your life with that? How is it that you would lead your life? What is it that you would really do with all this money in the life? Shalini, you go first, and then Vishal, and then we end this call.
Yeah, I've done this. I'd still be here talking to you today. No change. No regret.
Okay. मतलब कहीं घूमना नहीं है, घर नहीं लेना है, गाड़ी नहीं लेना है.
घूमना है, घूमने जाने वाले हैं. अभी दिवाली holidays आ रहे हैं. We do take our holidays. We have a December holiday planned with the family. So yeah, everything happens in good time. So
Lovely, lovely. That's nice. Vishal, you want to speak your heart out?
Yeah, I certainly do. So I think, you know, one of the things that I think we've not done well enough is structured giving back, right? I think we've spent a lot of our time over the last, I'd say, 5 years trying to give back to the community in some form, whether it is through Network FP or through ARIA or through any other sort of times. But I don't think we've truly given back to society. And I think it's a gap that exists. It makes me uncomfortable. And one of the wishes that we have is that we should be able to dedicate a day a week in being able to do foundational financial literacy work without any end objective. I think that's what we can really give back. I think we haven't done that successfully, and therefore I think that's the one thing that would be very valuable.
Lovely, lovely, Vishal, and that's such a nice thought. At the end of the day, the ultimate satisfaction is not about how much we have built, but how much we have been able to give back for all the things that we have got in our life. Beautiful. It has been a wonderful conversation, and I must tell you and the audience that this has been my longest Success Talks. I really lost time today. I was just in the flow. Whatever I wanted to ask, I started asking. But I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, Vishal and Shalini. Thank you so much for being here with us. And friends, I opened up the chat for you all. If you can share your one key takeaway or one greatest learning or feedback to both Shalini, Vishal, and PlanAhead, please put your hands on the keyboard and go ahead. And Shalini and Vishal, any last final words that you have for the Network FP and the community which you wish to share? And friends, during the meanwhile, on the chat, everybody. Yes, audio.
Yeah, I'd like to go first. I think firstly, Network FP is doing a great job getting everyone together. Keep up the good work. And for all the personal finance professionals that are there today on this podcast, keep up the good work that you guys are doing. There is a role that all of us play in client life. So remember that role and play it well.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much, Shalini. And Vishal, you are also you're on the board of Network FP. You have a special role at Network FP. You always had a special role, and you have just increased that. You have stepped up that role. So anything that as a board member of Network FP, as a board of director of Network FP, you want to convey some message to the community, sir?
So I think first of all, I tell everyone in Network FP in the team that you guys underestimate the amount of change that you all are driving in this profession, and I think our country needs so many personal finance professionals. Whether they are qualified with Network FP or not, just personal finance professionals. The need is extraordinary in this country. From the wealthiest people that we deal with to the people who are just starting off, we can see blind spots, we can see challenges that they're facing, we can see the kind of advice that's being delivered to them, and we're like, what an incredible opportunity. And I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give to Network FP is that don't miss this opportunity. Don't lose focus. Don't try to do too many things. I think if you're able to serve the personal finance professional well, these guys will transform lives like we can't even imagine. And this opportunity is so large that I'd be surprised if the ratio of financial advisors in our country doesn't reach 1:100 at some point. Today, those numbers are just not there. And I think very few people have the vision to get there. I think Sadik and Preeti, both of you, and the excellent team that you'll have, Gaurav leading it. I think just put your head down and sort of get to that 1:100 number, and I think the world is yours.
Thank you so much, Vishal. It's always inspirational, and you give so much of clarity whenever I speak to you. It's not now, but just about every time I speak to you. Yesterday, I had like literally a 1.5 hour conversation with Vishal, on some of the things. So it's always been amazing what you're doing for Network FPA and community. So is outstanding, and thanks a lot to you. And Shalini, you've always been a great supporter. People at QPFP love her sessions around children's education and other things which you have done. So thanks a lot, ma'am. And all the things that are coming on the chat, just want to read out a few of them. It's for you. Very insightful conversation. Loved it. With complete credit to fabulous couple and taking nothing. I feel okay. Both Vishal and Shalini spoke and poured their hearts out. Their work speaks volume about their sincerity and passion they have in their practice. Lovely session, super quality of question and frank replies by Vishal and Shalini. Incredible, loved it. I like and learn from Vishal and Shalini. Best wish both of you. All right, so all this for you. Thanks a lot for coming here and spending a good 1 hour time with the Network FPA community. Thanks a lot, Shalini and Vishal.
Everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.